Hello guys, this is Modest Major here, bringing you some commentary over some Shrine Snipers gameplay. Score in the background isn't too important, to be honest. It's not that great a score. I tried to pick a more hectic, fast-paced gameplay out of the ones that I had, but unfortunately right now on the Master Chief Collection, it is impossible, as far as I'm aware, to save local files, to save local theater clips, which is really frustrating because if there's any game that you wanted to do that, it would be the Master Chief Collection. I want to look back on my memories, I want to compile my montage clips, I want to get hyped for the game, I want to share my stuff. And from my personal perspective, I would just record every game using my Elgato, but the problem is when I'm streaming, I'm unable to do that simultaneously, so it's pretty frustrating. And I know people like BBK Dragoon and Genesis Rider are actually suffering from this, because Genesis Rider often reviews his replays and reviews other people's replays, but there's actually no working file share system either, so you're unable to share and view other people's gameplays, which is kind of mind-boggling, and I'm really hopeful that they pick up on that problem and fix it as soon as possible. Nonetheless, I'm not here to talk about Master Chief Collection problems. I've been beating a dead horse with that one for too long, so I'd rather just talk about something different. And today I wanted to talk about Oculus Rift. It's called PlayStation Morpheus, I believe, and just virtual reality as a whole, because this is something that the industry is trying to grapple with as a whole regularly right now. If I look at my subscription box, I see a bunch of videos covering it, and it seems like the hype train is kind of building. And obviously the gaming industry has had its attempts and its forays into the world of virtual reality. You got even going as far back as the Virtual Boy for Nintendo. If you guys don't know that console, it's probably for the best you didn't know it, because it was absolutely horrific. It was these really obnoxious goggles that you put on and you saw in like infrared vision, and it was dumb, essentially. Then you get stuff like the Wii, where they were sort of in the right direction, but the controls are a little bit fiddly and not necessarily as precise as you want, and in a lot of respects they actually held back from the game. And now we get the Oculus Rift, or Project Morpheus. These are kind of the two competing entities. I know Steam are kind of, they want to distribute, I guess, and become a platform for it. I'm not sure if they're actually doing their own gear, but I think they more want to be like, you know, they want to be involved in the process of it, and they want to adopt it and promote it, which I understand. Now, for the longest time, I was insanely hyped for this concept. I was totally sold on the idea of this new virtual reality platform. It seemed like something which was super believable, and if you watch the videos, a lot of people who went to these conventions and did these interviews, no one really had anything bad to say about it. They said, you know what, when you put these goggles on, you are immersed. You feel like you're there. You feel like you are transported to this location, and we've never had virtual reality this good. And it feels like a natural progression for the gaming industry, because for the longest time, it feels like we haven't had an innovation that has genuinely blown our minds, that has blown our socks off. You know, I'm waiting for this time in gaming where there's this natural evolution, where there's this step where we can look at it and it will be like it will be on our timeline of gaming. It will be something we look back to and say, wow, you know, that really changed and shaped the gaming industry. It was something new, it was something innovative. And for me, it's hard to, you know, there's obviously smaller and greater examples of that, but the last gigantic evolution I can recall off the top of my head was moving into the 360 and seeing the Unreal Engine in work for the first time on Gears of War 1. This was a step in graphics where I was like, you know, wow, this is kind of insane. Like, I haven't seen graphics like this for quite some time. This is super realistic, and I did a lot of just walking around the area and investigating the architecture, which I just haven't done in a game in so long. I haven't looked at something and been like, oh my gosh, like, you know, this is completely changing you know, the space of gaming. And if you go back a bit further, you can look at like the N64 with Super Mario 64. Now that was the first foray into 3D gaming. This was a change from 2D side-scrolling to 3D, and I'd say that was one of the biggest steps we've ever had. You know, it was going from a world of 2D pixel art platformers. You know, it was low bit rate. And then boom, all of a sudden the animation qualities are greatly increased. You get a 3D world in which you're able to explore it sandboxy, and a lot more stuff seems possible. And Oculus Rift is something where it seems like this new space. It seems like uncharted territory, and I'm very much excited to see where they go with this and what they can uncover. Now my worry is My worry with Oculus Rift, and what makes me skeptical of all of this, and skeptical if it can be the next gigantic stepping stone in the gaming industry, is whether or not the consumers are going to jump the gun, and the marketing officials and the publishers are going to basically prod and push them to believe in Oculus Rift before it's ready. Now, for me, it's no question whether Oculus Rift or Project Morpheus, it doesn't matter who's going to do it. I do think virtual reality will be the next step. My worry is that people are going to try and rush into this. They're going to try and will it to be ready before it's actually ready, before they've got the technology in place. Because I don't know if you've looked into Oculus Rift in a major way and looked into the details, but for the most part, they do have their severe limitations in terms of bringing Oculus Rift to, AAA gaming, to, gaming at large, to make it big budget, to make it accessible to all gamers, because right now it's in a place where you are unable to move once you put these goggles on in the world without using a controller. So there's a big disconnect between the movement and the actual, visual experience. These aren't connected to one another. They're disconnected from one another. And one of the only solutions I've actually seen for this is the gyroscopic movement treadmill type thing, where you move on it and it moves you, but in place, if you understand my drift. Otherwise, it's people using a controller for the most part. Or I've also seen the PlayStation Move, but you look like an absolute nutter with that. I don't know if you've seen the PlayStation Move, but it's basically like two Wii nunchucks, if you've seen them, and it's just holding them in place, and you kind of look like you're committing some sort of sexual act, to be honest. It looks a little bit depraved. And for the most part, I worry that what's going to happen is that some big marketing exec is going to be like, we need to push Oculus Rift, we need to push Project Morpheus, so what we're going to do is we're going to take an already existing game franchise, we're going to slap Oculus Rift on that, and we're going to do a bunch of PR speak and marketing and hype and buzzwords. I'm picturing a living, breathing world where you see and encounter people as if they were flesh and blood. I'm thinking these kind of interviews, when the technology is, in my opinion, nowhere near there. They have such a huge hurdle and a huge obstacle in terms of approaching movement in those games and making it seem realistic. And in terms of precision, you're not going to be able to get the type of precision that you would want in that movement with some sort of Oculus Rift gyroscopic treadmill. And the gyroscopic treadmill will cost too much money in the first place to be able to sell to homes like nationwide. That is not something we're going to be able to see in the foreseeable future. That is something that's maybe 5, maybe 10 years later down the line. And my worry is we're going to get a bunch of shovelware. We're going to get the equivalents of Kinect Adventures, Kinect Sports, Wii Sports. We're going to get that kind of stuff, and it's going to kind of bleed into gaming and push gaming in the wrong direction when it's not ready to go there yet. If you look at stuff like Fable the Journey, they were going to make a Gears of War Kinect game. You get the Star Wars Kinect game. If you look at that content, it was stuff that was hyped, it was stuff that was advertised, and then when you played it in person, it was wonky, it was jarring, and it wasn't quite there yet. And I do think Oculus Rift in its current state, from the games I'm hearing, have the potential to be fun. They're interesting experiences. You have this game where you get dropped down in a shark cage and you go underwater, and all these sharks are bashing and hammering away at the cage, and it's genuinely a terrifying auditory experience. But the difference with that is you don't need to move in that game. You are stuck in place, so it's an intelligent idea and it's an intelligent way of embracing, Oculus Rift's limitations. My worry is that they'll try and advertise a game and push a game that does not use its limitations in an intelligent way. It tries to mask it as if it's not got limitations. It tries to advertise it as go anywhere you want, do what you want. But then you play it, and it's really an on-rail shooter. It's really a limited experience, and they try to advertise it as something else, and then gaming is just going to be pushed back a little bit, because we're going to be... I don't want to see Halo 6 Oculus Rift until they have nailed that, and even then it might not be the ideal experience, because this is a tight competitive PvP shooter. And I just think about all these different game genres that they might try and push this upon when it might not be ready, and I hope that people don't buy into marketing hype and buy into advertising hype, that they'll buy, you know, whatever game the publishers tell them to. They need to do their research and say, does Oculus Rift really have a chance of making this game play better and play more exceptional, or are we jumping the gun here a little bit as consumers? Because if there's anything we've done in recent years, it's jump the gun as consumers. It's believe in the marketing hype and don't take a step back and actually look and do the research and the you know, investigation that we need to do as consumers. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this commentary. I know it's a little bit different, but there we go. I've been Modest Major. Thank you for watching. Peace out.